Welcome, everyone. We have, as promised, Costas here with us for VTM Engineering. Going to talk about the migration to Claude, why we did it, why we wanted to do it, and why didn't. Costas, maybe you want to give a little bit of background and then get going. Go for it.
Well, thanks for having me. Excited to present today. The first of what's going to be a two-session presentation that hopefully in the coming weeks with some colleagues we will show you some more of the results of the migration. I don't know if I hate to talk about me, but some background. I joined Chili Pepper in April, managing GTM engineering, somewhere between sales, marketing, bit of product, trying to also help all our customers do more automations and improve our GTM motions also. I'm coming from an engineering background. I was a full stack developer. I transitioned to marketing, and I also managed sales and customer success teams. And I was making as a kid some websites from PHP to WordPress when I was a student to make some money. And then when I finished, I also work with different systems like Webflow, Framer, and other editors. So I've seen just I'm saying this as a disclaimer, of the different technologies and paths I've experienced in the last 20 years. And when I joined Chili Piper, I've already done two migrations from one from WordPress and one from Webflow. The WordPress was for a friend, from WordPress to Webflow to Claude, which had its good and bad things. And then for my previous company, we went from Webflow to custom website with Claude. And when I joined, I couldn't say I couldn't hold it back and say to Nicolas, hey, I think we should also do this here, because there's some insane benefits to that. So I'll start with slides from Claude. If you could do anything, would you do everything? I think for me, the creating a website many times is getting the vision of the person behind the business and the designer to the end user through some code, right? So there's the different systems through the times, and that still exist today, that you have different ways of making a website. You can, the designer or even the business owner, if it's a small company, you can pick one of these multiple drag and drop design solutions. We could also start from the point that you have the pure code. But I think that's not the case for most of the companies and people. But you have a designer, they have a drag and drop builder like Webflow, Framer, the drag and drop plugins that WordPress has, and you can design a website right on the CMS and the designing tool, right? That sounds to be the most efficient, but what we see in biggest companies, and curious to hear in the comments your thoughts. I've seen it happening many times that the designers like to use something more flexible like Figma. They're used to it. They love it. They're on the computer with the mouse trying to get that designing vision and the vision of the company, the marketing, the sales into a Figma. Then they pass the Figma to the developer, and the developer will implement it on the CMS of choice. This is actually instances that you need developers even for Webflow, because you have some more complicated setups, or to pure code, or to other different setups with Stripe, Contentful, and React, and then have the result of the website. So during the last year, we've created all these in the middle steps and interfaces to transfer the vision of the company and the designers and the content marketers and everyone to the actual result, which is the website. And what is changing now is that basically what the end person is seeing is always code, right? If it's on your screen, it's code. So now suddenly from the mouse and the keyboard interface of creating the website, someone can create a website just by chatting or talking to the code, basically. Because nowadays, the LLMs can create better codes than us, unfortunately. Sometimes there is errors, but it's much of a faster way. You can speak faster than you can type, and the LLMs can write faster code than us. So we see this shift that now the interface is changing. And many times when I speak with designers that they are a bit hesitant on using these tools, I'm saying the problem, what is being replaced is not your designing vision and your designing abilities and skills and your love, is the interface that changes. Your design, and that's something that I want you to have in mind, that it doesn't mean that suddenly everyone should go be a designer of a website. If they don't have like the basic designing education or like designing understanding or aesthetics, like the result will be just as good as what LLM is trained to. And like you will like most likely the result you will have is like this sloppy AI feeling that this is what like most of the LLMs are trained on. So like AI and the new interface, like the LLMs, are amplified and are multiplying um, as a new interface, like the skills of who is behind it. And I'm not saying in any manner that my design skills are great. That's why we have the great designer Maria, which was actually a great part of this project. That was a very early adopter as a designer of LLMs. And also she used this interface to put and transfer our designing styles to the new website. So we have the new interface, as we say. Mouse is becoming language. The handoff to the developer is now becoming a conversation with LLM or with different LLMs. I will show you like in the end of the presentation why do I say that. And from execution bottleneck, many times, like in many companies, I've experienced the bottleneck of having the developers with a huge backlog of the product already, and they have like marketeers asking them to create some pages for them, some landing pages for a specific campaign that is going out tomorrow. And this is like humanly impossible to execute. So there's like always a bottleneck, and like many companies are switching from one platform to the other to try to reduce the bottleneck. And even with like platforms like Webflow, you end up needing again like a developer to be able to help you on that. So from execution bottleneck, we're like transferring to that more of a specification bottleneck, understanding what do you want to have, having a clear message, having the designs. And of course, I think it's like a more of a better bottleneck to have. Should you move? That's a good discussion. Like, depends on what do you have, like what website, what is your goals with your website? If your website is just like a small part of your business and you just use it as a portfolio and you're happy with it and you're not having a lot of campaigns and you don't want to create much more content, you shouldn't move just to move. Now, if you have like other things like maybe a cost behind it, maybe like you are not able to access and edit the page because like a developer did it for you and you want to have access, maybe there are some things to consider. I'm going to start with some things that you can gain. Basically, I have it also in the negative things that creativity gets cheap. You can create basically suddenly anything you want, anything you ever dreamed. Do you want to have a game on the 404 page? You can have it. It doesn't cost anything. It's like, okay, there's like the cost of tokens, but it's minimal to getting to the point that you learn the code and you put like all those hours that now you can have it for the fraction of the time and the cost. You don't have like the built ceiling, like anyone really in the team can go and create their own pages. You have more control over the performance. Like you have full access to the code. I struggle a lot trying to optimize pages built on WordPress or on Webflow to really get them to speed because in the end, you don't control the whole code. And especially the drag to and drop builders, they have a lot of overhead, technical overhead on top of them to be able to create code through code. So you don't always have like this access to the optimization. And in some cases, I would say that you don't even have the option to optimize for things like SEO in the code, on meta tags, on schemas. Some platforms are a bit like more rigid on that. And the dev queue disappears. This is a bit controversial because depending on the tech savviness of the team, I mean, AI is like making a lot of things easier, but as I will show you also some examples, there is some things that might feel more scary to some than others. And what you lose, basically, the speed is a double-edged sword. You can create anything really fast. Anyone can create anything really fast, but this is also a bad thing that maybe you get carried away and you end up adding a lot of extra things, a lot of extra icons. Let's add this, let's add that. And then you create like some confusion. And I always like to say, if you confuse, you lose. So this is like a bit of a trap that you can fall into, like, and in the product and designing a website, that you end up like adding a lot of things that sometimes less is more. So it's something that to take into consideration. Design can change really fast. And if you don't have like the guidelines and the design system in place, you can create a little Frankenstein. Actually, tip, if anyone is degrading, saying to Claude try to don't make the website a Frankenstein, create a component system and a design system and reuse whatever you can. Even saying this can work better than a huge prompt. I've tried it a couple of times and it works. Page Pro, like what we said before, anyone can create a page and you need like to have some more control over it and the team to be trained and like have a process on what to do. And you have some things like on the review side that I will describe a bit later. Recreating the first version of the website is always great, fast. I think I did the first, I showed to Nicolas and Alina a link of the page. I think it was in April. Also Bianca that is here, like we saw it, and I think like in a day we had like a first look of what the existing website looked like, but in Claude. But the real thing behind it is like much more. So have in mind that it might look easy at the beginning. It's not that it's hard, and depending on your website and your complexity, but then you need to be able to put a proper plan to it. What do you want to migrate? Do you want to migrate all the existing things? Do you want to create them from scratch? What are the dependencies? Like, is the domain tied to other different use cases and other teams that you might have not been aware of? And I have an example that will explain that also delayed us. Like, are all the stakeholders aligned? Is everyone agreeing with the migration? Is it a good time to make it? Is it a priority? Like, or do you have other priorities that you need to put? So like the demo is an hour, the migration, I think it can take a quarter. In both Chili Piper and Hold It, it took us around the same time. From my experience, it can get faster. And if you have a guide and if you have the steps clear and the buy-in from all the stakeholders, it can be faster, but it's not as fast as an hour. So I hope no one goes on their development team and says, tell them to move the website in a week without a proper plan. You have the two options. Like either you get the same design and you create a great copy of the existing website, and after you move everything, you can go and do the retouch and redesign and improvement, or you can redesign from scratch. There's pros and cons on that, especially, I don't know, for SEO, if you have a big website that is ranking and you have ads and campaigns running, a safe choice will be to recreate what you already have. If you are happy also with what you already have. If you are not happy at all with what you have, I would say you could go for the redesign from scratch path. Can be cleaner. It can also help you get rid of all the, I don't know, not maintained websites that you might have kept from all the previous years, especially for all companies. Now, if it's a new company and if you're designing your first page of course, you go from scratch. But it's something to consider. Some things that can be redesigned from the beginning. You can say, okay, this part of the blog, this category, we scrap it and we go from scratch. And we put a redirect on all these old posts because anyway, we didn't want them. If you have an analytics tool and you can understand all the pages that had no traffic, the pages that had no traffic and they didn't rank in the results, I think you can safely say that you don't need them. For pages that rank and they have campaigns on, I think my take would be like, try to move them as they are, make sure that everything is like for like. You don't lose your ranking, you don't lose your campaigns, because that could be risky. And then go and improve them. In our case, we did like on both times. I went on the first path of trying to recreate the existing design because we were like two big websites. It kind of helped. We had some challenges. And then after that, we proceeded with the redesign and we're still like doing some improvements on the old content that we have.
I have a question for you. In hour to demo, quarter to build, you say, well, because there are 3,000 pages and so it's a bigger project. Is there any other reason why it takes longer? Like, not just because it's larger?
It could be like the hesitation from different teams. Could be like then the priorities of other projects, like especially if it's not a task force like dedicated to that, and is it from a cross-functional team? Like in our case, for example, that we have the other projects, it can take longer if it's not a dedicated team working fully on it. Adjusting with the old way of doing things, and also website is a moving thing. We have things and campaigns moving, so we still have things that we needed to create on Webflow and create them also on the new website. There might be dependencies like with the product that that happen. But I think like most of the time spent was mostly on the alignment. I would say, okay, is like a priority, is like everyone aligned, and maybe some blockers like that. We have, for example, like the previous time I did the migration, we had a big blocker with the languages. We had like 4 languages, so like it was the whole thing to be migrated got a bit more complex because somewhere in the code something got complicated and we needed to kind of start from scratch. Like we needed to go back some commits and clean what we already created.
That's interesting because it's a lot similar to on the product development side. Like you can create a new product super fast, but actually to make new features takes a long time mostly because it's hard to get everybody to agree on specifications, like you said, specification, but online is similar. Regis, you have a question?
Yeah, super quick. And thanks for being so transparent with everything you do at Chili Piper. We have like a shop window into your world. And I think that's amazing that you guys do that. So bold.
We don't fish for how transparent we are, but you go ahead.
Costas, the debate between building on an API infrastructure with Claude only and doing it.
I think the question was like about building it with an MCP on another, for example, connecting Webflow MCP and creating the websites there over like doing it fully like on like custom code. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So I think that's a very valid question, and that's like a big conversation we had also with Badigan. That was my colleague that was working a lot with Webflow, and it's a valid one. Like if you have like a very well set up Webflow and you have your collections, your CMS, Webflow is a great tool, and they are advancing in so many ways. I'll dare to say, and I hope no one gets offended, like that Webflow is not AI native. It was not born when AI existed. So like if it was born something that is born when AI exists, like if you can speak and you can create the code and you send like screenshots and you have the code, it doesn't make sense to go and drag and drop. So you're like plugging AI on something that can be already working, and maybe for a huge website and maybe for enterprise is a good solution to create pages fast, but still you don't have full control over the code. And I'm not being obsessed of having ownership of the code, don't take me wrong here, but it's like, for example, optimizing the speed. We shared an example and we have an example there. So you cannot go to the limit of optimizing the speed, or like you don't have control over when the scripts are loaded. Just in a nutshell. So like it's a decision. I'm not saying you can go down the Webflow way and MCP way. And for many companies, it's a great idea and you should do that. You shouldn't go and rebuild the whole thing on Claude if this doesn't make sense for you. But in our case, it made more sense to have full control for the things that we want to do and the projects we have coming. And there's like some exciting things. So we went down that way. But it's not a bad idea to stay if you have it. So like there's like different ways you took the decision to move it. There's like different ways you can go around it if you go to the path of exporting and like redesigning, recreating what you have already. Same design, same content, just different stuff under the hood. You should definitely do not cancel and delete your existing CMS, at least for some time. So you have like a proper backup. You can export like the elements that we have, the pages, like kind of having different options for WordPress, like the XMLs, like you have CSVs for Webflow. You can scrape your website with tools like Screaming Frog. Even though I want you, like when you do that, like sometimes there's like some URLs that you do not find them and you find them later. And you keep finding every week like links that they were not transferred. It's something that also, like answering to Nicola's question, it also delayed us. Like every week we're like, okay, we're launching, and then we say, oh, the thank you pages were not moved. Oh, those pages were not moved. You have Search Console of Google that you can find what pages are actually ranking. That's, I think, very important to go to your analytics. You have like a solution that you can export all the pages with views and without over the last year. Search Console find that the pages that rank and the pages that are indexed, because also Google has like the index pages, and you need to make sure that you have the proper redirections. Otherwise, you will get the 404s. And you can also have the option of the MCPs. For example, in our case, we also connected, we did all this, and we connected also the MCP to Webflow that had access to the collection. So while building certain things, you could say also check Webflow through MCP and find the elements and the content that might be missing. So this is like about how you get your existing content there. What I said before is the same as designing a website. You should not skip the steps of traditionally building a website. And I will recommend you that you go see a small tutorial of like high-level tutorial of how to create a website with code, maybe a 10-minute, 20-minute one, to understand how normally they build a website, like that. What are the components? What is the design system? And you don't have to understand it fully and go and build it with code. If you ask like Claude to build your design system and the components and reuse the components for consistency, so instead of having like for 10 product pages, 10 different heroes and 10 different social proof, let's say, components, you have one and you change the parameters. I think it's like something basic on the reusability of code. Put your colors, your logos, so you have consistency all across the pages. The LLMs are evolving, but a lot of times they will just go and recreate the components, a different code in different page, and that makes the code not manageable, and it's going to cost you more in the longer term. And the million-dollar question, CMS or no CMS? CMS for content management system is like where you normally have like not only your posts, but like even the logos of your clients, for example, the customer success cases, stories, like even your pricing and the features. CMS is WordPress is a CMS, Webflow is a CMS. You have like Sanity, you have like Contentful, you have Strappy, and you can plug all those either to their own solution like Webflow and WordPress or to an external system and external code. I think that's a question of like who is editing the website, who is going to edit the website, and how is the content going to be managed. I think like the CMS is like more of a safe choice if you're coming from a system that has a CMS, that people will continue to work in a similar way. They can enter, log in, find the article that they've been working on, especially with teams that they have a big content team and freelancers that maybe are writing the articles directly in the CMS, and you don't want to get them to have to enter the development workflow, have access to the repo and to like the request from there. But I think also there's some things against that you're losing like the full flexibility of an LLM managing the website. Like the interface, like what we said before, like if you keep the interface being like the mouse and your desktop, you're losing some speed there. You cannot create the content in such an interactive way that you would like. I don't know, maybe now you have the ability inside the blog post to have a different interactive elements and make your post more interactive. You can put a little quiz inside your post. So you're losing all this flexibility that LLMs are giving you being the interface. So I don't have a preference here, and I would say again like that for some projects, the CMS definitely makes sense. You can have a hybrid approach that you have a CMS and a lot of pages living in code, in like markdown files or just code. What you need to consider is also like who is going to work with it and how do you want to work? How do you want them to work with the website? So here we have like the markdown with repo. You have like
you say you don't have a preference, but you did have to make a choice, right, for Chile. So which choice did you make, and what earned the decision? What flipped the decision?
So the decision so far, I'm saying so far because like you never know how things will change, like depending on like how we adopt the product and how many, I don't know, what products come down our way. Like we went down, the writer speaks to LLM and submits the files to GitHub directly. And we have the site. So we have full control on the content and the interface of writer or marketeer or whoever is interacting in the website. Even we have like salespeople that are interested to participate in the project. It is through Claude. The approval process is like through pull requests on GitHub, which are becoming much easier. We have like the checks in place. But it might be, let's say tomorrow, that if we wanted to have our customers writing some things, for example, or the collective audience like being able to write stuff, it could be that we have like a part of the website with a CMS. I don't think it's the case for us. In the previous company, we had like 6 content writers and like 3 product marketing people that were very active and they were very used to logging in a platform and adding the content, and they found some friction on the part of talking to Claude. So we, for that friend of the fan project I did last Christmas, that I helped him move his website from WordPress to Claude. We just started the Sanity CMS. So it's like the lawyers, he's a lawyer basically. So he had like 3 lawyers that they were writing. They wanted nothing to do with Claude. So basically they log in into Sanity, they put the content, the legal articles, and it's working. And of course, also nowadays you can have like the agents being able to write autonomously some things. Sorry, the first option was like if you are writing the markdown files inside the GitHub, and the last one is like you have like the writers interacting with the agent, and the agent writes everything on GitHub. So for us, like now, like we have like the third option, the agent being the editor. Also, we have the markdown in repo. So like sometimes like when I do manual changes on some things, if it's faster. But either of the solutions is great, and depending on the company. Very important to not break the lead flow. I know many of you have like custom forms, maybe plugins on WordPress that are forms. Maybe you have like the Webflow forms. And Claude telling you that they recreated these forms, it doesn't mean that they did them in the right way. You have like form validations in fields. You have like notifications going to the emails. There's like a lot of things in the infrastructure behind that. Maybe you have them connected with the Chili Piper concierge to route your leads faster, and you don't let them to wait. So you need to make sure that the critical touch points with customers are not broken, and you really need to verify them. So it did happen to me like that a form, the Buga demo form, was like the contact us form, like for the WordPress site last Christmas. It was broken, and individually it was working. So like for 2 days, like the requests were going to the void, basically to Nexus. Nothing was going anywhere, but like the user was seeing these brilliant animations and success messages. But Claude 4.6 made a great job on sending these requests to nowhere. So do make sure that all your critical scripts and the forms and the pixels are moved. Something I recommend you, and something we did at Chili Piper, we have checks, and we implemented code checks that they do these frequent checks. Every time that something goes to production, these checks are being run. So we make sure that the critical infrastructure is not broken. And once a day and once a week, we have some checks that we make sure that all these things work, which is something which is a benefit that I don't think any Webflow or WordPress site have these checks in place. And I saw it many times going wrong. So this is a plus if you're using a custom website and you implement these checks. SEO, very important, like making sure that the content, there is like parity, and like also the URLs are being transferred or redirected properly. Speak with the person that is helping you on SEO. If it's you, make sure that all the redirections are correct. Export your redirections from your server or from your CMS if they live there, and make sure that the redirects work. After you go live, also try to create a 404 monitor if your service provider doesn't have one, and make sure that all the 404s that you might have, and I'm sure you will have like 404s, could be some images, it could be some files from the CMS. For example, WordPress has a lot of jargon. Make sure that these things are being redirected, and make sure that you find those in time. This is like for languages. Language can be like tricky. It's not just having the translation and like Claude telling you that you have the translation. You have like the href tags that you make sure that Google knows that this English website is like the same as this like Spanish website and this German website. Make sure that the translations are correctly being transferred to all the languages visually, because again, Claude can tell you, or Codex can tell you that it did it, but it wouldn't. Something technical here is like if you go down the agent way, pull request, you need to have like a staging that you will be able to see everything there if it's okay. And very important to have your checks before building every time, making sure that nothing broke. It might sound complicated, but once you get used to it, it's not something that the team sees like on their day-to-day. Like they will open the pull request, behind the scenes this will run. And nowadays we have all these agents that actually do the reviews for us. And I can say that they do it pretty well. So I don't think it would be much harder to put something on production if you have the right checks in place that will break stuff. Again, I'm saying again, done is a claim, not a result. Something that Claude will tell you, like, I did this. You can say again, check again. Or you can have like Claude open. I don't know, maybe I can show you like this is like how you will interact with, it's like a technical part on this side. Don't be afraid of this, of how you interact with Claude. Then you can have ChatGPT Codex to do a check, an extra check. And I'm telling you that it finds many times things that Claude didn't find on improvements. And this is an actual improvements that we can go and either execute them with Codex, which by the way is getting better the last weeks, or you can also put them back to Claude if you want to keep the same one. You can have like cursor, you can have anti-gravity here. You have anti-gravity, for example, with Gemini, doing an extra check. Anti-gravity used to be very nice on the visual parity and checking like the visual coherence and like the responsiveness of the page. So you can have agents checking the work of your agents, which is great. So it's a trick that you can also do to make sure that what is claimed is done. But of course, you should have the checks in place that they can catch things that are out of place.
Costas, Regis has a question about translation. Do you no longer need translation software because Claude does a translation if you have a site in multiple languages?
It's a good question. Like we have different ways, like Claude or Codex can directly translate. Like the code is like if it's in the code, they can do the translation directly. If you use the CMS, that's like a limitation of the CMS, like the translation of CMS. You need to find something that plugs on the CMS to do the translation. So you might need a software that plugs into your CMS. If your CMS doesn't support MCP and doesn't have an API, you need a software that connects to that. For example, I was using it for a lot of years, Localize. That was like a translation management software that you can connect to any CMS. And then you can have like the people from the team editing translations. You can hire external people to do it, and you have also machine translation. The thing there that helps, that though you can recreate with Claude, is like translation memory, if anyone is familiar with it. Imagine we want to translate scheduling in Spanish, maybe in Spanish is programar, and in Greek is like programatizo, but we don't like the word programatizo or programar, and we want another word. And Claude always translates that. So translation memory is like once you translate one word, it always translates it like this. You can tackle it with adding maybe a dictionary file on your Claude and make sure from your Claude and D file or your agent file that it always does the translation based on that. There is pros and cons. Like and again, like if you want a team that is translators to access the translations fast, you might need to keep your translation management software. You have a lot of languages also, depending on the use case. But in a nutshell, I think like the basic needs like can be covered just by Claude. Yep. Make sure that you don't have any exposed keys, like any files that you uploaded to production, any paths that are not guarded. Ask your development team to have an extra look. Do not let them have too much look on it and not like too much rules, like that will make your website like a big bottleneck. But like do make sure that you cover these cases. Just like an example here we had with the speed, like the limitations from Webflow that, yes, our Webflow instance was not the most optimized, to be honest. We could have optimized it, but we could have done better. Takeaways, the interface changed, not the output. I think like we already spoke about that, and I prefer to go through the live website so you see like the result, the preview of what's going to go live in this weekend, that we don't have much traffic, and we will be able to as much traffic as in the week, so we can also review some of the edge cases. And we're going to have a second session where we're going to speak about like numbers of the results after the migration, and we're going to have like the Maria and Vatican giving their view on the pros and cons, like again always transparently, without hiding anything and saying that we did great. We're going to say where we messed up and where we did great, so you can all learn and avoid it.
John has a question.
Yes.
Question. Go for it, John.
Yeah, I saw your FCP go down from 17 seconds to 1.5 seconds or something like this. That's pretty amazing. Was it actually the same image or animation, or you changed it?
I'm with you on that one. First of all, it's amazing it could be 17 seconds fast like that. Yes, tell us
It's
more
not fast at all
for that number.
It is also different stuff.
The slide you showed earlier with the different speeds.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can show you like here, like it's like we're lucky that we still have the whole website live and the staging. Like that's what I wanted to also show you that before and after. This is like the website on Webflow, like looks nice and like has like all these like animations, for example, and also has a lot of other scripts that are, some of them were like left from legacy, but we couldn't go and optimize when everything is loading exactly, get into the code and defer the scripts. So yes, the new website that you can see here, we still have actually, we have more elements just in the hero alone. Above the fold, we have more elements than before. We have some animations, but all the animations are they're not Lottie animations. They're like it's hard coded code. That for a developer to build that, I think they will have done this in a week or more, and this just took us basically last night.
You didn't use Lottie. It's hard coded. That's the difference.
In this case, it's hard coded, but it's a lot of optimizers like of how do you load images, how do you load the frames. We have full control over the code, so it's not just the Lottie here that caused the problem. It was the whole code that was not optimized. Like so here, like basically, we are optimizing even how the images are served is more optimized than the CDN of Webflow. Like Next.js is optimizing the images, so it's a bunch of things. And again, like I don't take our example like the 17 seconds. I still think is like not the best benchmark to start from for a Webflow if it's a simple one. But yeah, you definitely can go and push to the most that you can. With the new website, I'm going to send you all guys a guide that we created with some also prompts that they add some maybe value to your migration with the tests. And this is like something that we're going to keep upgrading with the things that we saw working and the things that we missed. So this will be a live guide. And this is an example I gave you before. This is custom code here that we make it look like this. If it was a CMS behind it, sure, you could find and put the HTML, but it's much easier to do it from here. So we're going to also share this guide with you, which is going to be it's going to be updated. During the weekend, we will do the migration, so you will all be welcome to see the new website. Actually, I can share you the link of the staging, which we have open and it's protected. It has some Easter egg features that we have some on-page personalization with our de-anonymization feature here. Just I'm forcing it, so you can make the websites more live, especially if you use Chili Piper too. I'm going to show you the link here. Feel free to add the domain of your website if you want to see it with your logo and force it.
Cool. All right. I think we're out of time unless there's any pressing question. We're going to wrap it up. Next week, Lisa, who do we have?
We have Megan Ratcliffe, and she's going to be talking about token maxing.
As in not to do it and how to make sure
how to max them out. So it works for everyone, sales and marketing.
How to ask your CEO for more tokens. All right. I look forward to it then. Thank you, everybody.